message affirmation this morning is I am perfectly healthy. And indeed, we all are, despite appearances to the contrary. We know as we walk through any day in our lives, we see people who may be bound to a wheelchair or have some other seemingly physical impairment. But indeed, we see beyond appearances and know that indeed all these people are healthy, including ourselves. And I know that I've had a challenge. I think I mentioned even a couple Sundays ago, I was out. Barbara had taken over for me. I had this cold, weird thing for like a month. It felt like I was walking around with my head in the clouds. And even during that time, I would affirm to myself, knowing that I was perfectly healthy in all circumstances, in all situations. Oftentimes, we get taken away by appearances and we begin to focus on that. And we know that indeed Spirit has in mind for us a life of perfect health despite appearances. And this is so in line with not only our daily word reading, wherein we were told that we're ageless. We're ageless because we know that certainly as our physical bodies get older, oftentimes some of our physical attributes may decline and we may experience challenges, but our soul, our within, our appearance, according to divine spirit, is always young and healthy, and we are always perfectly healthy. We are now in the season of Lent, and while when we in New Thought think about things, we don't always necessarily think about Lent, and I always like to think of Lent as a time when you give something up, but unlike some faith traditions where maybe you give up your favorite treat or your favorite television habits or some physical thing, I always think to myself, my gosh, it's almost like New Year's again, making New Year's resolutions. No, when we think in New Thought about what we give up that thought that we have a physical challenge, give up the thought of lack or limit, give up some doubt that you have about yourself. So when you think about the things that you give up, think about the negative things that you have allowed to encroach into your mind and into your being, and give those up. Give that up. For Lent, give that up, because we know that Spirit has intended us to have lives full of happiness and health and prosperity and peace and loving relationships. And these are the things that are intended for us, and these are the things that indeed are in our lives. And sometimes we have to look beyond appearances to see and know that, but they are there, and that includes perfect health. We have the Keeping a True Lent, these publications that are from Unity Village, and there are a few on the back table, and Mary's holding them up, and these are complimentary, so feel free to take them. And like the Daily Word, there's a different word every day, and this, of course, is the third Sunday in Lent, and today's word is conservation. And that refers to not necessarily turning off all the lights and not using the water, but divine energy eternally renews every cell and atom of my being. And so, of course, with divine energy working along that path, how can we be anything but perfectly healthy despite appearances to the contrary? And so our goal this week, as we go through the week, as I mention often, hopefully everybody gets to set a little time aside to become contemplative and meditative, and we had a wonderful example of that today, and I know that not everybody always has that much time, but if you can take even 5 minutes a day or once a week to just set aside for your own mental health. This is a great goal to focus on. See yourself as perfectly healthy in all ways, despite appearances, diagnoses, or challenges. We are all Spirit's perfect expression every day in every way. Know that. Indeed, I am perfectly healthy. And the good news is that regardless of challenges, regardless of limitations, of disappointing diagnoses, we are all perfect, spiritual, and divine, the perfect expression of Spirit, just as we are. We have been created as a perfect example of divine creation. And indeed, we are the beloved and perfect children of the divine. And so as you go through the week, knowing that indeed you are perfectly healthy. And I'd like to invite you to join me now in prayer. Eternal and loving God, we thank you indeed for allowing us to know that we can see beyond appearances and that indeed we are perfectly healthy, we are perfectly happy, we are perfectly prospered, and indeed we enjoy peace and love in our lives every day in every way. We thank you, eternal and loving Spirit, for these gifts. We thank you in the name of faith, in the name of hope, and in the name of love. Amen.